You know, I'm no art critic, but I know what I hate. And I don't hate this.
I don't know if I understand the world anymore. I don't know if things make sense any longer, because the foundation is cracked. It's all discombobulated. And, you know, we as humans, we rely on certain unshakable, unbreakable rules that govern our existence. Up is up. Down is down. Okay? Black is black, white is white. Night, day, okay? These things, they don't alter. They don't change. But when something in the world which you think is set in stone and that you are basing an existence off of is suddenly shattered, you look around and you just don't know anymore. Things just don't make sense. By all the logic of God and man, says that movie should have sucked. It had all the earmarks. Everything about it said it was going to suck. From the first trailers, you watched and you could see it. You could see the checklist. All this was another pointless nostalgia cash grab from a studio looking to make the cheapest film possible and get it out into theaters. You could have, from the trailers, you think you could have swapped Sonic out with the Chipmunks or the Smurfs or any other nostalgia property that they have made a bad CGI road movie out of. All the hallmarks were there. You had a CGI nostalgic character. Check. You had a D-list actor at best as the CGI character's human friend. Check. You had a once powerful actor, once the highest paid actor in the world, now slumming it in your cheap nostalgia film. Check. Instead of visiting the bright, colorful, adventurous world that the property is known to exist in, you choose to film it in cheap small towns and cities with a thriving film industry so that you can make it on the cheap. Check, 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 check. All the hallmarks were there. And yet, I must now report to you, in complete control of my faculties, not under duress, not having been brainwashed, that this movie does not suck. This movie was, dare I say it, enjoyable. I don't know what is left for me in the outside world anymore. Okay, we're done with that. Let's talk seriously. I mean, in all seriousness, folks, I went into this, I left the house tonight, going into this movie going, oh my God, you know it's gonna suck. The question is, what level of sucking is it going to be? I wrote touching letters to my loved ones, asking them to please remember me as I was after seeing this movie. Braced myself. The credits started, and I said, okay, here we go, and did not hate it. Now, I want to be clear here, much like in the case of Justice League, saying it didn't suck is not the same as saying it was good. If you ask me, was it a good movie, I can't in all conscience say, oh yeah, it was great. But if you ask me, hey, was it an enjoyable movie, or was it, a decent night out? In that instance, I would have to say yes. Not expecting that. So let's just kind of go through. There's a lot that needs to be talked about, to kind of talk about why this movie didn't suck. And I keep saying it, hoping it will sink in, but it's taken some time. So one of the things I mentioned in that little rant there at the beginning is that, one of the things I had a problem with, you're doing a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and instead of having it take place in the very bright, colorful world that Sonic comes from, the video game world, they're doing it in boring old, like I say, cheap places to film, which again, all the hallmarks of a film that they don't have a lot of faith in and they're trying to make on the cheap. But in actuality, I have to say, the idea of having Sonic living his life kind of in isolation on Earth, because he's an alien, obviously, and he's trying to hide the power of his speed, actually gives the character and the story a good thrust, that he's lonely. And the film does an actually pretty good job of showing that it's not... In a lot of these movies, again, I reference things like the Chipmunks, the Smurfs, things like that. They tell you these characters have emotions, but they're very, I don't know, it doesn't read. Here, the scene where Sonic kind of acknowledges that he is lonely is quite well done. It's again, it was rather shocking. I'm not going to say it touched me in the way that, the Song of Names or something like that touched me, but I did kind of go, oh, that was nice. I also think they found a nice balance in Sonic's character. See, the problem with video games from the 80s and into the early 90s, which is when Sonic originated, is that, and I'll be honest, I have not played a Sonic game past Sonic and Knuckles. I've played Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Sonic and Knuckles, and that was about the end, because I graduated from the Genesis to the PlayStation. And from what I understand from Zero Punctuation, every Sonic game that has come after it has sucked pretty bad anyway. So, but at any rate, the thing about video games like that is that there really weren't characters to speak of. Sonic didn't talk, he didn't have a personality. He was just a graphic, fast-moving graphic. He got assigned a personality, varying personalities, from the several cartoon shows that were done. And there were, I know there were at least 3 of them that have been done. And he got his personality is always some juxtaposition of that, and they made him like so the personality that's kind of been the dominant one is like a snarky teenager, a Bart Simpson, too cool for school, always, kind of a Bart Simpson meets Fonzie kind of character. With this incarnation, and I don't mean to offend here, but they kind of go more with someone with attention deficit disorder, but he still has emotion. They give him more than just the surface character. He's not just kind of a hyperactive kid. There's some layers going on there. And I honestly think, having seen the whole film, that the choice of setting it on Earth not only helped that character arc, but also set the stage as a decent origin story. So obviously they do sequel baiting in this, because every film nowadays does sequel baiting, because every studio is hoping they're going to find their answer to the Avengers or Harry Potter or that franchise. They know they can pump out a movie every year and people are going to go see it. So of course there's sequel baiting. And I honestly think that doing the film the way they did it and making the choices they made was a good basic setup for an origin story. And then you can go back to the video game world that he comes from in part 2. So it actually turned out to be, assuming they make a part 2, it turned out to be a pretty smart move. They didn't shoot their wad on the first go. James Marsden, yes, not the most famous actor in the world, and not, I wouldn't say the best actor, but he's a reliable hand. And I think he establishes that here. And again, you got to always remember, and this is for me saying that, I have to remember things like this, that it takes a very good actor to do some of the stuff he's doing against, nothing. Either he's acting with someone in a suit, or he's acting to a tennis ball, but he's doing all these back and forth very well. It's kind of like, you can say, and there's evidence to support it, you can say how cheesy of an actor David Hasselhoff is, but go back and watch Knight Rider. The guy is doing 90% of his scenes opposite a car and making you believe that he is actually having a conversation with his car. That's not easy to do. I'm not saying Marsden lights up the screen or anything, or is like a transcendent performance, but it's a steady hand. It's a good, he's a good, reliable, middle-of-the-road actor to kind of base your movie on. I also I didn't catch the name of the actor. I liked his wife in the movie. He has a wife. And they do some things with them as a couple that I think they don't do in movies a lot. And you're like, oh, wow. So the whole thing of Marsden's character is that he's a small town sheriff who, of course, wants to go to a bigger city and, establish himself there. Now, in any other movie, in earlier 90s movies or lazier films, when he gets promoted or he gets that chance, he gets accepted to the San Francisco Police Department, his family would be like, oh, but we don't want to move. Oh, but you're tearing us apart. They'd be all like that. No, his wife is all, no, you worked 3 jobs to pay for my veterinary school. You sacrificed for me. It was like a really balanced relationship. You don't see that in movies. It's a little detail, but I liked it. But, let's talk about the real star of the film, the guy whose name is, above the title. And let's talk about Jim Carrey. Boy, howdy. If you were not there in the 90s, you do not really understand how big Jim Carrey was. And to say he's fallen from grace is accurate, but you got to understand how high up he was, just how big his name was, and how big of an attraction he was. Now, I'll be honest, much like, I know we're never supposed to say anything bad about him, but much like the late, great Robin Williams, Jim Carrey's comedy never did much for me. I liked him on In Living Color. He was very funny on In Living Color. But things like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, I rewatched it a few weeks ago. It was on TV, and I was just like, oh my God, what were we thinking in the 90s? But I always liked his dramatic work, and I was always very disappointed that his dramatic work really hasn't been recognized the way other people's has. The Majestic, The Truman Show, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, brilliant performances in all of them. So the guy knows his shit. But I gotta say, even though I was not a fan of his 90s comedy, boy howdy, he is channeling 90s Jim Carrey here to play Dr. Robotnik. I'm watching this and it's like going back to high school in a good way. I mean that as a compliment, that he is doing another comedy where he can kind of do his thing, and you can just see it, that he seems more controlled than he was. Part of the appeal of him back in things like Ace Ventura or Batman Forever is you really did feel like he was off the leash. No one was directing him. He was just fucking going. Here you do feel like, he's older now. He's had more happen in his life. So you feel like he does have a bit more control over it. But he is letting loose, and I'm not going to say it's fall down hysterical, but it is good. It is fun, and it's like, this is the Jim Carrey I remember from high school. Yay, kind of fun. Not the best, but enjoyable, and I think the perfect character for this role. If I do hope they make a sequel just because I want to see him back playing this part again. So a lot of this works. They do a lot of fun things with the chase scene. They set up a lot of great stuff. A lot of it is just solid. Again, not perfect, but solid, entertaining, pretty well done. Is it perfect? It is not perfect. So let's talk about the flip side here. First of all, I'm really getting tired of the trope in movies now where the movie opens with a big action scene and then it freezes and the main character's always going, I bet I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, how did blah, 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 blah. Well, to figure that out, we have to go back a ways. And they flash back to the, and then narrate over the, God, I hate that. They did that in Birds of Prey. It was something I didn't rant about in Birds of Prey, but the obnoxious jumping back and forth in time of the story was fucking irritating. It's a minor thing, it just bugs me here. I have to say though, as much as I like how they kind of found a balance with Sonic's character, Ben Schwartz as Sonic's voice does not work. It's for the same reason a lot of characters like this don't work. Because it is too obvious that he is reading from a script. Again, that's the second time I've invoked his name in, 5 minutes. But take Robin Williams as the genie. Okay? Because that was animated and they could animate the whole thing and they recorded the voices at one point and and then later did the animation to it, you could let Robin Williams, again, off the chain and just tell him to, have fun, ad-lib with the script. And as such, the genie, even though I'm not a fan of it, feels very organic. His ad-libs and all that feel like they're coming from a natural place. And part of the problems they had with their later Aladdin series and the cheap direct-to-video sequels is that they were trying to script that insanity. Take again, you want a non-animated, the second time I've mentioned him in two reviews. Johnny Depp is Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean. The very first Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp was just kind of swaggering and just playing the lines as he felt fit and just kind of freeballing it for a lot of it. And it felt natural and it felt fresh and it felt original. Then in the sequels, they were like, well, now we need him to do that. So they were scripting his ad-libs and scripting his quirkiness. And it comes off as scripted. I'll give you another example. This is a good one. Anyone who ever watched Deep Space Nine, Rene Auberjonois as Odo did this thing where he would go, huh. He would, harumph or whatever at the end of a line or to put emphasis on a line. And it was just something he did as an actor. And then he found that the writers were starting to write the harumphs in. And he went to them and said, don't do that. It's not a scripted thing. It's when it feels natural. I'll put in my harumphs. You don't put in my harumphs. This is all a roundabout way of saying that scripting his hyperactiveness comes off as scripted. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like someone who is hyperactive or attention deficit or whatever. It's very, it's very planned out. And because of that, you can't really connect with the character of Sonic. He's not as fun as he could be. Say like again with Jim Carrey, who, like I said, is clearly more in control than he used to be, but is just kind of doing shit. but he knows how to do that. That make the scripted seem spontaneous. He's good like that. It also sounds, his voice is way too old for the character that they're trying to play. They're trying to play Sonic off as about 16 years old, I would say. But his voice is too old. It doesn't sound like a 16-year-old. Tom Holland would have been a much better choice for Sonic, I think. You know? I really believe that. So yeah, the film also, while I said, it does some fun things with the tropes of these nostalgia grip movies, it still clings to a lot of them. Yes, there's a fart joke. They limited themselves to one. But it does kind of follow the pattern a little bit. But all that being true, I cannot come at you and say that I hated this movie. I can't even come at you and say I didn't like it. It was fun, and dare I say it, this feels weird, and there's something I did not think I was going to say. You thought I wasn't going to say that this film was enjoyable when I came out of it. This is a line I didn't think I was going to say with this movie. This could be the best video game movie ever. Now, granted, the bar for that was set lower than Danny DeVito's chin-up bar, but the point remains. It was a good use of the character. It seems like there was an affection for the character and the games and the intellectual property. Yeah. Oh, okay. A couple other things I got to say that I had a hard time with. This movie is whoring itself. Oh my God, so much product placement. And I don't even mind things, I don't mind product placement in movies, with the character and my goodness, I sure am thirsty. I'll have some of this delicious bottled water. I don't even mind that. But when you're doing things like, my goodness, I sure do love the Olive Garden. Wow, Amazon sure is a great thing. It's so obvious how much they are whoring for money. And it's just like, oh, dear God. Anyway, had to bring that up. But I gotta say, not a bad film. So final grade for Sonic the Hedgehog, I almost feel dirty saying it. I'm going to B-. I had fun. Again, I'm not going to say this was the best movie I've ever seen. I'm not even going to say I'd see it again. But I don't feel bad for the one time I did see it. I don't feel like I did yesterday coming out of Birds of Prey, like my brain cells had been sucked out through my nose. The world is filled with possibilities, folks. It just goes to show you. Sometimes you gotta check these weird shits out because they might be good. I just hope in the next one that they do go back to the video game world and they do the thing like where, Sonic is saving adorable little bunnies, from Dr. Robotnik because he's being mean to him and he's turning them into machines, and Sonic goes and no, boom, save the bunny, and the bunny goes. I love that. That was fun in the video games. I like it when he saves the bunnies, and the little chickadees, that he saves, chickadees and bunnies. Those are adorable. Anyway, go see Sonic. It's actually kind of enjoyable. Holy shit. Who would have thunk? So yeah, that's that. I have to go check my sanity now. But thank you for watching, and as always, drive safe. and I will see you at the movies.